Welcome to the Minority Business Report, where we talk about positive things that are happening in Anne Arundel County. I am Joanne Jackson, Anne Arundel County Minority Business Enterprise Coordinator. My guest today is Jaron Rice, owner of Magothy Payments in Pasadena. We're delighted to have you on our show.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
But before we get started, would you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, where you're from and what it is that you do?
Yeah, so I own Magothy Payments. We are Maryland's highest rated merchant services provider. I help businesses become more profitable by lowering their cost of credit card acceptance. I grew up in Howard County, actually. I went to school out there, Columbia specifically. When I met my wife, she joked that I'm a Columbia snob, and I had no idea what that meant until I moved outside of Columbia, and then I was like, oh, okay, I understand that. So I graduated from Long Reach High School in Columbia. My mother still teaches there, actually. I went to University of Maryland for a little bit, got an associate's degree from Howard Community College, and spent a lot of time working as a mortgage banker, and I spent time in home improvement sales as well, and eventually started this company back in 2014.
So that's most recent. It seems like I met you much longer than that.
Yeah, no, it's I think we met either the end of 2000. I think it was 2015.
So you had kind of like just started your business.
Yeah, just kind of finding my voice.
Well, we often talk about past experiences, especially those in many ways that serve as a stepping stone to the future. What were you doing prior to starting Magothy Payments, and what challenges did you face starting up your business?
Okay, so like I said, I have experience in mortgage origination, which that experience really helps with what I do. I've always been good with numbers. I hated math, but I was good at it. And with mortgages, I found a way in which I could use math in everyday life to help. So with originating loans and getting clients set up, one of the things that I noticed was after the loan was originated and it was sold to somebody else and it was serviced to somebody else, I would have clients coming back to me because they were having issues with the customer service at that company, or they weren't happy with this or that. And as an originator, once that loan is closed and it's sold to another company, I don't have any control over that. However, it was still disheartening to be in a situation where these were clients that I had built rapport with and developed a relationship with, to see them not being serviced properly. Same thing with home improvement sales. I work for a number of different companies of varying size, some small new companies, some very large established companies that you've heard of. And that was one of the things that I was always very concerned about in home improvement sales was, I've established this relationship. I want to make sure that the company that I represent is going to treat the customer the way that I would, the way that I told them they would be treated. So when I started Magothy Payments, the more that I learned about this industry and credit card processing, the more I realized that aspect, that level of customer service was non-existent. I realized, in talking to some of my first clients, that a lot of business owners hate their credit card processors with the fury of 1,000 suns. It's because they're not transparent. They talk over them in bank speak, and they're transactional, they're not relational. So the moment that ink dries on the contract, oftentimes you would never see that representative ever again. because they've locked you into a 3-year contract with a $500 cancellation fee. Oftentimes they would have liquidated damages, which are a monthly penalty that you would pay for the remaining months on your contract if you broke it, on top of the cancellation fee. So when they had you at that point, they had no reason to cater to you. And I don't think that's right. So what I wanted to create was a processing company that was built on relationships. And the tagline of my business is relationships are greater than transactions. And so I wanted to be transparent. So one of the things that my clients see on my statements, they will be able to see how much my company profits off of them. I wanted to build and establish a relationship. So while most companies charge, have a 3-year contract and have, a $500 cancellation fee, my clients are month to month with no cancellation fee. And I give them a guarantee in writing that once the markup is set, that I will never increase that markup. So what that forces me to do is it forces me to earn their business every single month, because there's nothing stopping them from going somewhere else other than the fact that I'm delivering the service that I said I would at a price point that is favorable. So that said, since I started the business in 2014, my attrition rate is less than 3%, which is utterly unheard of in this industry. Usually over an 18-month timeline, the industry average attrition is about 40%. So credit card processing companies are constantly sending their guys into the field to acquire new sales because they're bleeding clients on the back end. And I realized early on that it's much cheaper to keep an existing client and than to go out and find another one. So my business is much more focused on client retention than it is new client acquisition. Now, obviously,
Which is kind of the way it's supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, where if you own a business, especially if you have a retail storefront,
Right.
you will have people from my profession, credit card processing agents, walk into your business unannounced several times a week, trying to sell their services. You will get, unsolicited phone calls all the time from companies out of state looking to solicit your business. And I don't do that. I work primarily by appointment. So my existing client base is my largest source of business. And I believe that is a reflection of them being happy with the service that I offer and referring me to their friends and colleagues and other business owners that they know. And then the second largest portion of my business comes from just being out and networking.
Yeah, so the other part of that question was, what challenges did you face, if any? I mean, you've had so much experience in the past. What did you see as your biggest challenge?
One of the things that I realized is when you're small, when you're new to business, when you're fighting against the big guys and competing with banks and companies like that, there's really a propensity to sell yourself short. And so I've got about 175 clients now. My first 40 to 50 clients are priced well below market. Like not just, competitive, but so far below that I'm hardly making any money off of them. And it took a while until I started to see and started running projections to realize that with the level of service that I provide, even by having a higher price point, I was still going to be well below the banks, but it would make it more worthwhile and profitable for the business so that we can grow and scale, because it was one of those things that, I had large accounts that my business was profiting $20, $30 a month on but on the back end, I was saving them $1,700-1,800 a month on their processing, right? So that was a challenge for me to have that realization that profit is not a dirty word. Okay, I started a business to make money. There's what I believe in my industry, a fair amount that I can make off of a client. But really understanding and having confidence in myself and my business and what I bring to the table to be, the reality, and this is not me bragging, but the reality is with the level.
There's nothing wrong with bragging.
with the level of service that I offer, I could charge more than the bank and still get clients because of the level of service. But again, when you're talking about credit card processing industry, this service, that the main reason people consider a switch is to save money. And the added benefit that they get is the level of service that they've never had before.
Right, which will lead us to our next question, because I think in the last, you said 16 is when you started, 2014?
Yeah, so I started the business in September of 2014, and I did it part-time. It was basically a way for me to make some extra cash, because I have a stay-at-home wife and 3 kids, that are within 3 years of each other.
Oh,
so that was, so any opportunity that I can have to make some extra money, I'm all about it. And
because when I met you, I felt, the same way you're talking to me now is the same when I saw. I was, really impressed with what you were doing, and so I feel you have a very unique marketing strategy, and you've got that old-fashioned approach to sales. And on your website, you've got these 5 pillars listed, and in particular, I love that one that says, "Own up when you mess up."
Right. Yeah. It's the 3 pillars of success. Do what you say you're going to do. Treat people well, and own up when you mess up. And I don't think that that's rocket science, but in this industry, it's a superpower. Like you said, I'm kind of old school. I'm only 35, but my father was a career salesman. He's in his late 60s, and he was a relational seller. He worked in pharmaceutical industry.
So that's where you got all this experience from.
I did, yeah. So he was a pharmaceutical salesman. He had great relationships with the doctors that he called on. And, conversely, my mother is a teacher. So I have a nice hybrid of their personalities where I'm a relational seller, but I can take something as difficult to understand as credit card interchange and explain it in a way that your average business owner can understand without sounding condescending, or having that bank speak. Well, you wouldn't understand because that's not what you do.
Or don't worry about it. We got
it. Right, exactly. No, this is for my clients, for many of my clients, their credit card processing terminal, or the credit card processing as a whole, is the largest source of cash flow into their business. So why wouldn't you want to have a relationship with that person and have them explain to you in detail what your rate is, what your markup is, why you're being charged, what you're being charged, who is making money off of that. And that's a service that I provide, because a lot of people don't realize, if Visa sets the interchange rate, that it's actually not Visa making money off of that interchange rate. It's the issuing bank of the credit card that you accepted that gets paid that interchange. So being able to explain to them who's making what and why really helps them better manage their cash flow and be more efficient with their processing when they realize the savings on the back end of it.
So are those 5 pillars, tell me how you came to that conclusion of when you mess up, you own up. What brought you to that conclusion?
So my dad always told me, swear to your own hurt, right?
Swear what?
Swear to your own hurt.
Okay.
Meaning, if you say something, do it, even if
it hurts.
It hurts. So one of my early clients, is a guy who owns an automotive repair upgrading center called CarWorks in Pasadena. They've been around for 20-something years. And when I met with him initially, I was looking over his processing statements, and I said, I was new to this. I said, I think I could probably save you $700 or $800 a month, at based on where you are at this rate. And being new to it, when I was writing up the agreement, I missed a decimal point. So yeah, so the rate that I was trying to price him at was 0.7% as a markup, and I wrote it up as 0.07%. And he was happy. His first month, he was saving like $1,800, and I was making far less than I anticipated. And he was a good sport about it. He recognized, he was like, listen, if you need to adjust this, you're still saving me a ton of money. I understand. And I said, no, listen, I gave you my word, right? It's right here on the agreement. Your markup is guaranteed never to increase. That's my fault. And I'm not going to change it. I say, if you want to make it up to me, you can get me a couple referrals, and we'll call it even. Right. And so he's been with me. He was my second client. So he's been with me since the beginning, and he's given me 8 or 9 referrals that have turned into clients, and those clients have given me referrals. So I mean, he has created a ripple effect in my business that has been a tremendous blessing. And it goes back to I messed up and I owned it. Right. But at the same time, I didn't try and weasel out of it and say, well, I made a mistake, so let me mark. No, that's a lesson learned. Haven't made that mistake since, but it was, that's what, swearing to your own hurt. And one of the things that we do at Magothy Payments that I've never seen any other company do is we also provide a secondary analysis, right? So whenever someone is considering using our credit card processing services and they're already processing, the first thing that we do is an analysis of their credit card processing statement. So I'll be able to see what your current volume is, what your pricing structure is, whether it's tiered pricing or interchange plus pricing, if it's interchange, what the rates are, if it's interchange plus, what your markup is, if it's tiered pricing, what the rates are, and basically see an overall picture of your credit card processing. And then from that point, I will be able to give you a quote as to what my processing markup is and what those projected savings would be. Okay, that's not special. Anybody can do that and tell you, I can save you this much. Where we take it the next step further is that after a client has processed with us for a full billing cycle, when we get the statements with us, we will review them and compare them to the previous statement to see where their effective rate is and show them dollar for dollar. We told you that we could save you $350 a month. We saved you $419. And that follow-up, that secondary analysis, that second step really shows them that we did what we said that we were going to do. Now, with 175 clients, there have been 3 or 4 occasions where we didn't hit our projection, right? There are a lot of variables that go into credit card processing that cannot be accounted for. The biggest one being the kinds of cards that people pay with. So a business owner could process $50,000 in credit card transactions this month and pay, just using round numbers, they could pay $1,000 in fees to process $50,000. Next month, they can process exactly $50,000 and pay $1,400 in fees. That's a $400 swing when the volume didn't change. But the reason that's possible is this month they may have accepted, more debit cards that have a lower interchange rate, and next month they could have accepted a lot more American Express, which tend to have a higher interchange rate. So there are variables that you cannot account for when you're giving someone an estimate. And there have been 3 or 4 occasions where when I did the secondary analysis, we didn't hit our projection, right? I've never not saved somebody money, but there have been times where, I told them, I think I can save you $200 a month, and it came back to $135, $140 a month, or something like that. And when I give someone a projection or a quote like that, there's a lot of calculations and things that go into it, and it's usually fairly conservative, so it's rare that I don't hit that. But when I don't, I own it. Right? I have gone back to 3 or 4 different clients after the fact and said, I told you I'd save you $200 a month. I saved you $137.58. So I'm going to lower your markup to this and reevaluate it next month.
That's a great approach.
And business owners appreciate. I've had people like literally say it's. I've had projections where I'm off like $25, and it's it's not a big deal. I say no, but it is to me. You know what I mean? And so I've found that my clients recognize that they can trust me.
Yes.
Which again is why I'm getting the vast majority of my business from my clients, because before we get to that point where we're doing the secondary analysis, typically, I don't press them for referrals, because I want to demonstrate that I'm going to do what I said I was going to do, that I can save them money. And then afterwards, it's a full report that I do that they save that shows this was your effective rate before, here it is now. If you apply that effective rate to this volume, it equates to this much in savings. This is what we projected. Here's where we are. And then at that point, I feel like I've earned the right to ask for a referral. And when you do it that way, I don't have any challenge getting referrals from my existing clients.
Now that you've become this success as a small businessman, I want to get your opinion on an article that I read recently about a minority-owned firm in Baltimore City. He was making strides in that gift card turnkey business, but eventually he kind of failed, and he couldn't sustain himself. Are you familiar with that case?
I'm not, no.
In your analysis, what would have happened in that business? The gentleman actually was taking unused gift cards and either selling them back to the business or something on that level.
Well, gift cards are challenging because it's beneficial to the business on the front end. Okay, so statistically speaking, if I own a salon and someone buys a $100 gift card to that salon, there is a large percentage of people who will not ever use that salon gift card, right? And so it's one of those things that, someone bought it as a gift. When we were moving, my wife got a gift for a salon in Howard County when she quit her job to stay home 4 years ago. And I was searching through some boxes for something, and I found it, in a drawer, in the basement that had never been used. And so the person that bought that gift spent the money. Right. The business got the $50 up front, and it was never used. So that was straight profit for the business. And then another large percentage of people will spend less than what the gift card is and never use it. If you have a $100 gift card to a restaurant, you might go and spend $87. There's $13 left on that you may never use. And then on the flip side, there are a lot of business owners where when a gift card is generated, they spend a lot more. So it's always profitable for the business to offer that as a service. Now, where that company ran into challenges, I have no idea, because that's one of the things that I run into quite a bit in my industry. Is usually the gift cards are generated by a company's point of sale system or their credit card processing terminal. And one of the challenges is if a business owner is interested in my services, but they know they've got 50 unclaimed gift cards out in the market, that's something that they're not typically willing to leave out there, because if they switch and use a different processing terminal, the old gift cards typically won't work. So you have some business owners that look at it from the standpoint of, well, I've already been paid for it. So, if someone comes in and claims that they have a $50 gift card, I'll give them $50. But some business owners recognize that some consumers might take advantage of that, and come in and say, oh, this is a $50 gift card, and they've used all but $10 on it. You know what I mean? So with that, I really don't know what was the issue behind that business not succeeding, but I know just by what I do that the gift card space is a challenging space, and it's usually incorporated with the credit card processing, and that may have been part of the challenge that they were facing.
Right. Well, this is quite interesting. You're talking to me and our audience about things that we typically don't know. So I'm glad you're here today. And you had some really unique marketing ideas on your website, and I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. You offered subscribers $1,000 if you can't save them money,
right,
by doing business with you. And how has that challenge worked out for you, and are your customers responding?
Yeah, so a wise man once said, if you earn them on price, you can lose them on price, right? So yes, my job is to save businesses money, and that's the primary focus. In 3 years, I've never had to write that $1,000 check. So the qualifiers of the $1,000 is the volume. They have to be processing at least $3,000 a month, in credit card volume, and it's not a franchise. Right. Okay, franchises have their own pricing structures that are extremely competitive, but my buy rate is ridiculously low, and my business model is such that I would rather make less money off of more people for a longer period of time than swing for the fences the way that most companies do and end up losing them in 6 to 8 months. So honestly, I have that on the website because it is a company policy, and typically someone that, if they're going to Google, looking for credit card processor in Pasadena, Maryland, my business organically is the first one that'll show up. And a lot of times when people are doing research on Google, they are price driven, they're price motivated. So that is typically enough to get over the hump to have someone reach out to me. But it's one of those things that in my approach, when meeting with referrals, that's not even something that I have to bring up, because it's almost a given. You know what I mean? The way that we price, I just know my market. We are priced so far below where banks are priced and other merchant services providers that, it's like I said, I've never had a client that I wasn't able to save money. Right. And again, with the guarantee that the markup never increases, that gives them added security. Now, I can't control what Visa and MasterCard and the card brands do. Visa changes their rates twice a year, every April and every October. But the markup, the profit generated by my company, I give them a guarantee in writing. And all things being equal, if you had two companies, one was a large bank and one was a small business like mine, and both of them were priced the same, but I'm giving a guarantee that this pricing will never change and no bank will ever give that to you. That could be the thing that sways them in my direction, in addition to the customer service and that feel. I've found that, because my clients are small business owners and the vast majority of them are in Anne Arundel County, they like working with other small business owners.
And they understand what you're doing. And that's what they all should be focusing on.
Right.
The good, the better, and the best.
Right.
Give them the best, and you'll get the business.
Absolutely.
Since we've met years ago, I actually haven't had a chance to sit down and talk to you, so I'm really glad that I was able to catch up with you to get you on the show to talk about the county's minority business program and some of the things that we do. It seems that you're so successful. I don't think you really need us as as you seem to be doing so well. But you have a lot of what we would call crossover appeal and an extensive, diverse client base. Which is a hard thing to do for a small business just coming out the gate. What are your thoughts about the progress that minority businesses are making today, and what do you think the role of government should be in helping small businesses succeed?
So my views on that are a little different, and full disclosure. And I joke about this to everybody. So I'm black, my wife is white, my best friend's Jewish. So I'm an equal opportunist, right? It's a bit of a catch-22, right? Because I know that I am a black man, right? There's nothing that I'm ever going to do that's going to change that. I know that, in this context, I am a minority business owner. And unfortunately, there are times where I'm reminded that, right? However, I don't view myself from the standpoint of a underprivileged, disenfranchised, that victim mentality, right? Because I feel that when you take that approach, that my dad always told me confidence is half the battle. So when you take the approach of, I'm a minority business owner, I'm not going to get a shot, they're going to go with somebody else, that you've already lost that battle before you even step into that meeting.
I agree.
So in people that know me and have known my business, one of the things that is very distinctive about me is the way that I dress in my business, right? So this is my standard sneakers, tattoos, beard, this is me. When I first started my business, I was very shirt and tie, and I was probably a little insecure about my approach to business owners. And I mean this in the nicest way possible, because I love Pasadena. I live in Pasadena. I work in Pasadena, and most of my clients are in Pasadena. But the county as a whole is a rather diverse place. Pasadena is not. And so I had this mindset that I had to be by the book and clean cut and clean shaven and wear a shirt and tie and project this image just to kind of get past that initial first impression. And I realized through a lot of my clients who were in Pasadena that had nothing to do with why they chose me and why they stuck with me. One of the categories, the statistical category that I have more clients in than any other category is automotive repair. So I have a lot of clients, blue collar, hardworking, dirty hand, greasy fingernail kind of people. And I didn't realize that when I walked into their building or establishment to meet for the first time, even if I was referred to them, and I walked in a suit and tie, and he's, in a work shirt with grease all over himself, like automatically he felt like this guy's gonna sell me something. He's gonna slick talk me into signing away my pen. You know what I mean?
Right,
like that.
right, right.
I was afraid to show my tattoos and stuff. And when I had that revelation after talking to some of my clients, it was like, you know what? These are the hardworking blue collar that they make up the vast majority of my client. But that's how I am. I'm not, the look down my nose type of person, and so when I had that realization, I said, you know what? I'm not wearing a tie anymore. I hate wearing a tie. I went to private Christian school. I wore a tie all my life. Like, I don't want to wear ties anymore. So, and it was like half my clients are covered in tattoos. So why can't I dress and come off this way? And again, it's one of those things that for the vast majority of people, my skin color and my appearance plays zero role in that. Unfortunately, I know for a fact that for some people it has. But I don't allow their opinions to define me, and it's one of this is a topic within a topic within a topic.
Right.
But
let's talk about the big picture, which is minority business in general. I've been in this business like maybe 28 years, and I see there's been progress.
Right.
And just meeting people like you who were very unique. Had I not been in that minority business realm, I would have never have met you.
Right.
And I just think what you do is just so unique that at the same time we need to help promote people like yourself and other minority businesses.
Absolutely.
As best we can.
And that's and getting back to, and like I said, I kind of ramble sometimes. With the other question, the role of government in that situation is equal opportunity, right? And that is a very important aspect, because there are times on a larger scale where the small minority business owner may not have the same access to the government bids and contracts and things like that a larger company would have. And so, because of that, they have programs, the MBE, DBE certifications and 8A and things like that can help companies like ours get more access to be able to bid. Because again, as a business owner, I'm I'm a free market capitalist, right?
Right.
But it's one of those things that you don't want to see someone who's not as good get rewarded the business because they're a minority, but you want to have, because you can find equally good or better businesses in these smaller, minority business pockets that may not have had the opportunity had it not been for, that sort of program or that access.
And in your arena, you just took advantage of your own opportunity. You created your own business as an entrepreneur. And then those other aspects that you couldn't have been able to take advantage of any of the MBE programs because of the uniqueness of your company.
Right.
You're doing a process, whereas most of the government agencies, they do the visa thing.
Right.
And so that's already kind of set against you, but still you're a success. And I applaud you for that. And whatever we can do, we talked about it earlier, I think networking is the key. And you're another excellent networker. Aren't you involved in BNI, I believe? I
am, yes. So I am, my BNI chapter is the Millersville Wednesday Lunch, and I'm the vice president of that chapter. I'm also the regional growth coordinator for Anne Arundel County.
What does that mean, regional growth coordinator?
So my job, I always refer to it in a biblical sense, but I'm sort of like the apostle, where when there's an area or when the organization needs a chapter or wants a chapter in a particular area, I help get that chapter started. So find a location, generate interest for it, sometimes run the meetings, and grow that chapter to the point where it charters at 18 members, and then hand it off to the newly elected leadership team, and then move on to the next chapter. So the two main functions of the regional growth coordinator are planning and establishing new chapters, and then also helping to grow existing chapters. So one of the things about BNI is that every chapter is a category exclusive, right? So if you have a merchant services provider like myself in one particular chapter, then another merchant services provider couldn't join that chapter, right? But as the growth coordinator, when I'm out networking and I come across business owners or sales reps that are looking to grow their business through qualified referrals, I can help introduce them to a good chapter that may work for them, and have them visit that chapter. And if they end up joining, then, I've helped that person grow their business because they're going to get qualified referrals from that group.
Right, and I think I met you at that, was it bi-monthly multi-chamber breakfast?
Yep.
Do you attend those often?
I do almost religiously.
Oh, okay.
It's
Wow.
like speed dating.
That's
So
good. I hope to run into you again.
Absolutely.
So we're kind of coming to the close of our episode here. And I normally ask our guests, can you give us some words of advice, particularly for those who may be interested in starting a business today? And tell us about some of your lessons learned.
Okay. I mentioned before not selling yourself short, and sort of having confidence in what you bring to the table. That's really, really important. Having a business plan and sitting down with either a business coach or a CPA, a bookkeeper, those kinds of people, and develop that circle of trusted advisors that can help. I know the Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation offers great services for that to help small businesses, because I run into a lot of people that are starting a business and haven't thought through the process of how do I scale this? I've gotten to this point and this is as much as I can do on my own. What's the next step?
And they forget projections. They invariably, like you said, you hated math, but you're good at numbers. Most people hate really math, and they're not good at numbers.
Right.
So I've seen plans, great plans, but no projections.
Right, and that is very, very important, because again, you need to know what direction you are heading in so that you can plan and adapt and adjust for that. Because like you said, you may find yourself where it with your projections, with what you're doing, it's going to taper off. You need to figure out, by meeting with a business coach, or how do you get to that next level so that you don't fizzle out.
Have you ever had to utilize counselors or?
Yeah, so I actually recently, just within the last 2 months, started using a bookkeeper.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's crazy. Like I was running the business off of spreadsheets and what I've gotten hidden up here.
Well, that means you're growing. That just means you're growing.
Yeah, no, it's a great problem, but it was one of those things that sitting down with a bookkeeper who's almost acts like a forensic accountant, going through the business account and finding, I had to face the harsh realization that I was making a lot more money than I realized that I was, because there were, marketing strategies and things like that I was spending money on that didn't have a good return on investment.
Right.
So I was making a lot of money and I was bleeding some out, but those avenues that I was bleeding them out, they weren't ever growing into more business. And so that was, the pardon the pun, come to Jesus moment, where you had to look at it and say, okay, this is what we're doing. This is where the money is going out, but it's not generating more business. So we need to address that and change it,
Right.
And either not spend it and just grow our profit by not spending it, or invest it in another area that can give us a better return on it. And that was really, really, we just recently sat down and did our projections just based off of, the pace that we're acquiring new clients. And, the future really, really looks bright. So that's something.
I'm so glad to hear. Glad to hear that.
Glad to
hear
say.
that. Thanks, Jaron, for your insights and recommendations. Stay tuned to Channel 98, Verizon 38, for the Minority Business Report, which airs daily. You can also watch us on YouTube. If you have any comments or suggestions regarding this edition of the Minority Business Report, please contact me at the Office of Central Services in Annapolis on 410-222-7620. We are here working for you. Peace and blessings. The following bids are available from the Anne Arundel County Purchasing Office.